Hello and welcome back to Hardcore English Learning. This is our reminder series for experienced learners. And in this episode we want to talk about how you can stop making up to 50% of your English mistakes with just 3 simple rules. And why do I say up to 50%? Because the mistakes that you make are determined by your first language. So different people will make different mistakes more and less often. If your first language is an Asian language, especially like Chinese, these 3 rules will probably help eliminate nearly 50% of your mistakes. If your first language is a different language, they still might help you to eliminate 25%, 10% of your mistakes. I have taught hundreds of students and graded thousands of assignments, writing assignments, and tests. And most of my students spoke an Asian language. And I began to notice that nearly 50% of their mistakes were not related to the pattern they were being taught in that chapter. They were just related to these 3 simple rules. So the students learned these rules and applied them, and the students that did actually began to reduce the mistakes they made on tests. We will also talk later about how you can apply these same rules to help your speaking. So the first rule is tense. The tense is something that will be in almost every sentence. I say almost because a proper sentence, there should be a subject and a verb. But sometimes you get a single word sentence, like somebody says, "Do you want to go to the store?" and you say, "Sure." It is really difficult to assign a tense to the sentence, "sure." But most sentences, there will be a tense. If you are learning a specific pattern, like learning how to use should, that will affect sentences with the word should. Perhaps you're learning from place to place, this pattern. That will affect sentences that use that pattern, but tense will be in pretty much all of the sentences you use. We can check this example. Here's a question you might get on a test. Testing the pattern eat some kind of food for lunch. So you might be learning this little pattern, eat something for lunch. That something will be a noun and it will usually be a food. And for lunch, it means that you eat that thing and that thing is your lunch. A simple pattern, something that a really early learner might learn, and they already know some patterns, and perhaps they get a question like this: what did the angry teacher eat for lunch? And perhaps on their writing assignment or their test, they might use a sentence like, "The angry teacher ate pizza for lunch." They might just say she, they might just say he. There might be a picture. They might say he if the teacher is male, they might say she if the teacher is female. The pattern is right, eat, and then they said some kind of food, and then they said for lunch. They said eat pizza for lunch. They did not say eat for lunch pizza. The pattern is right, but the answer is wrong. And why is the answer wrong? You already know, and this student already knows, that for the past tense we do not say eat, we say ate. But they just forgot that the sentence was past tense. The student saw the word eat in the question and put the word eat in the answer. So after you write an answer to a test or to a test question, go back and just check the tense. You will be amazed, and especially if you are if your first language is an Asian language, especially Chinese, you will really be amazed how many points you can find for yourself on your test that the teacher will now not take. you look at the question, it has the word did, so it is in the past tense. Now, there are many tenses in English. We will use the past as the example in this episode, but if it said, what was the angry teacher eating, then you would need to match that tense. Here it says, what did the angry teacher eat for lunch? So you did eat equals 8. Did plus eat equals 8. So the angry teacher ate pizza for lunch. So when will you use did eat and when will you use ate? Well, you will use ate in a normal sentence and in an answer that uses yes. You will use eat, did eat, and of course these are in simple past tense sentences. But you would use did eat in the question, and you would use did and eat in a sentence that has not, like the angry teacher did not eat pizza for lunch. Did not eat. Here is an example. He did not study English when he slept. The colors here, blue is for nouns, orange for the verb phrase, and we like to use green for things like prepositions and adverbs and time phrases and place phrases and special patterns. Sometimes it might be colored like the first sentence here. He is a noun, and so each time in the sentence that there is he, it is blue. And then slept is a verb in the past tense, and so it is orange in the first sentence. Sometimes that entire phrase, when he slept, will just be colored green, because that is telling us the time. And it is easier if you do not break a sentence down into a million tiny pieces. The phrase, when he slept, is a time phrase. So sometimes we can break it up by word, and sometimes we will just color the entire phrase the same. For instance, notice that English is blue in the first sentence because it is a noun, but it is part of the verb phrase, study English. You could put he did not swim when he slept. He did not eat breakfast when he slept, and breakfast is really a noun, but the phrase eat breakfast is used as a verb. You can take the entire thing, put it in a sentence as a verb. So really English is actually the object of the sentence, and it is a noun, but to make things simpler, when it is more helpful, we will sometimes just make it part of the verb phrase and make it orange with the rest. So he did not study English when he slept. Now, this sentence uses the word not, and so it says did and study. It does not say studied. But in the same sentence, you can notice the verb slept. It does not say did sleep. It says slept. Why? Because not is talking about studying English. He did not study English. We are not saying that he did not sleep. We are saying that he did not study English. He did sleep. So we say he slept. He did not study English when he slept, because the word not is not talking about slept, it is talking about studying English. So we say he did not study English. All right. Well, so what is the next pattern that can really help you out? We want to also notice the second rule. I just call it S. Rule number 2, S. But what does it mean, really? We're actually not talking about plural nouns. I am surprised how well Asian people do with their plural nouns. A lot of times, a lot of my Asian students, considering the fact that their language does not normally distinguish plurals from singulars. But in this, and this can help you whether you are whether your first language is an Asian language or not. And this rule really is talking about the verb form. When do you need to add an S? When do you need to use an S form? This rule, if you already know this rule, great. If you do not know it, you can check our episode about this rule specifically. And there is also an episode about the tense rule. So if you want more details, you can learn. Actually, there are episodes about each tense, so you can learn about the different English tenses. here, the S rule is talking about adding S to a verb. When do you do that? Well, first, you do it in the simple present tense. Just in the simple present tense. And you do it when the subject is she, he, it, name, the name, just any name. And if the person doing the verb or the thing doing the verb is she, he, it, name, then you will use the S form of the verb. With most words you will just add S. If the word ends with the letter S, the letter X, the letter Z, the letter CH, the letters SH, then you will add ES. And you can check the video for how to pronounce these as well in different situations. When to pronounce it Z, when to pronounce S, when to pronounce is, and maybe ease, and things like that. So if a word ends with the letter Y, and the letter before the Y is a consonant, that means it is not A, E, I, O, U, then you use a rule that says bye bye Y, hello I, E, S to change the verb form. When the word ends with the letter Y, but the letter before Y is a vowel, a lot of times it will just add S. And the word have changes to the word has. Also, I should mention that with ES, most words that end with O, you will a lot of times add ES on that. All right, so when do you do it, though? When do you add this S in the single present tense? It is when the subject, the person or thing doing the verb is she, he, it, name. And also, there are more rules, and this is not the purpose of this episode, so you can learn that rule if you do not already know it. We assume you do. But if we are talking about can, should, would, sometimes you will not add the S. He can run. He should eat. We are not saying he can eats. He should eats. And also, if you use like, you need to remember to do something. Remember that you add the S to like, if you're saying like to, and we will talk about that in a minute. What does the angry teacher eat at 6 o'clock? So we're studying a pattern here that just says you put the time phrase at the end of a sentence. There are exceptions to this, but it is difficult to be wrong by putting the time phrase at the last of the sentence. So here's an answer. He eat pizza at 6 o'clock. Well, actually, the time is after the rest of the sentence, so that is nice. And the sentence is still wrong. And the problem is not the tense. The tense is correct. It is present tense. Great. But he eats. She, he, it, name. S, S, S. We use the S form. So the S form for eat will be eats. So the right sentence would be he eats pizza at 6 o'clock. Remember, if you say he likes to eat pizza, you put S on the first verb like. And to eat, you will not put S on the word eat. Actually, in that sentence, eat is really, perhaps you can think that it is not a verb. You can think that to eat, which is the infinitive form, is being used like a noun here. He likes pizza. He likes cars. He likes to eat. You can also say he likes eating, which it is a verb ing, eat plus ing, but you can use verb plus ing as a gerund. Gerund, G-E-R-U-N-D, is a verb ing used as a noun. So really you are using the word eating like a noun. He likes pizza. He likes cars. He likes eating. And you can use to eat like that. So the verb in the sentence really is likes. So the S goes there. Now, this makes a lot of people think that when you use to, the verb must always be the simple form, the simplest base form of the verb, like to eat. And it is true when you are using the infinitive. But there are some exceptions. Perhaps the word to is not actually part of the infinitive. It might be part of the pattern, like this example. From reading to speaking. So you can go from place to place, or you can talk about from noun to noun. Like, this is a message from me to you. This is a gift from me to you. This series can help you learn English and learn many things about English, from reading to speaking. Here, reading is actually a noun and speaking is actually a noun. And the word to, so that means speaking is a gerund. It is not the infinitive. So the word to is not part of that. So we are not saying to speak. The word to is part of this pattern, from something to something. So if you are reading and you find a verb with ing after the word to, then you will know that is not the infinitive. So it is not always true that it will be the simple form of the verb. From reading to speaking is like saying from grammar to pronunciation. We will help you learn everything. We will help you learn all about English, from grammar to pronunciation. Now the next rule that you can use to really eliminate up to 50% of your English mistakes, especially in your tests, is to check your punctuation. Just after you write the answer, make sure that your tense is correct, make sure that your verb form is correct, and make sure that your punctuation is correct. Period and question mark are not the only kinds of, periods and question marks are not the only kinds of punctuation, but this is how I write it. This just makes it easy to remember. So, where does he work? A wrong answer would be he work at the restaurant. And actually, there are two mistakes here, right, in this answer. So we can use our rules to check the sentence here. And I want to just let you take a few seconds and correct this. You wrote this answer on a test, we can say, and now you need to correct it. What is wrong with the answer? Actually, there are two mistakes. Did you catch them both? Is the tense correct? Where does he work? That is present tense. He work at the restaurant. Work is present tense, simple present tense. The tense is correct. He work, S. She, he, it, name, SSS. We did not use the S form. He works. So that was a mistake. Add the S. And punctuation. There is not any punctuation. This is a sentence. This is an answer, so you need to use the correct punctuation. And the correct answer is he works at the restaurant. Alright, we can try again to practice using these rules. What does he study? And here is the answer you wrote. Check it and make sure it is right. Is the tense right? Study is in the question. Study is in the answer. The tense is right. Is the S right? He study. She, he, it, name. Use S. She, he, it, name, SSS. So, he studies English. How would you spell studies? The word has a Y at the end. Sometimes you can add Y. Add S, but if the last letter is Y and there is a consonant before it, not A, E, I, O, U, then you need the bye-bye Y, hello, I, E, S rule to help you get it right. So he studies, S-T-U-D-I-E-S, English. And punctuation? There is not punctuation. Add punctuation. The right answer, he studies English. Perhaps your test will make you do this sometimes. Make a question. They study English at night. Now you need to make a question about that. There are many questions you can make. You could take if the word they is what you want to ask about, take that away. Then you would say, who studies English at night? You could say, what do they study at night? Your answer here, and perhaps there was a picture of a clock or something to help you understand that you need to ask a question about time. So your question here says, when do they study English? Is the tense correct? Study, study. Present tense, present tense. The tense is correct. S. They study. They study. Not she, not he, not it. Not name. They study. It is correct. Punctuation. There is punctuation. Is it the right punctuation? When do they study English? You need a question mark. That is a question. You need a question mark. The right answer is, when do they study English? All right. But you are not taking tests, perhaps, right? Perhaps your tests are already great. And so the 3 rules that can help you eliminate up to 50% of your English mistakes are: number 1, tense. Check your tense. Number 2, S. Check your verb form in the simple present tense. And number 3, punctuation. Now, we said we would talk about how to apply these rules to speaking, and this episode is getting long. We can talk about that in the next episode. Click the like button if this helped you at all. The like button helps to tell me to make more episodes like this. Click the subscribe button if you want to make sure that you get the next episode. Ask a question in the comments. There will be a question and answer series, and we will answer questions from the comments. Goodbye for now. And talk to you guys next time.